Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, traveling towards the end of this season. Just one more episode to go after this one, where I am re-diving into all these shows that I did with a guest host and just doing them solo because, again, attention to detail, different perspectives, something I might have caught. And of course, you know, my focus has changed over the last year and a half. My thought processes have changed. My ear has grown, not physically, but, you know, in experience and different things. So I thought it would be cool to go back and redo these songs solo. This song is another track from the album Sea of Light. And just to remind you who the players are on this one, we have on lead vocals, Bernie Shaw, guitar, Mick Box, bass, Trevor Boulder, drums, Lee Kerslake, and keyboard, Phil Lanzon. I originally covered this with Dave White, who is the director of social media for the band, and he handles the Twitter account, the web page, the Facebook page. He does not do the Instagram page, but he does uriah-heep.com, the band's official site, which also hosts their web store, as well as mick-box.net. Very talented guitar and keyboard player, and just a great guy to know and to spend some time with. He's been on the show a few times doing the individual songs, and then, of course, we did Live in 73 together, and, you know, we had meetings in between and exchange emails all the time. Really, really super cool guy. He puts in an incredible amount of work for the band, and yeah, really cool, great stories. Did some work with Ken Hensley back in the day. Lots of fun. So here is Fires of Hell, Your Only Son by Uriah Heep from the album Sea of Light. Now, you're definitely getting a nice and powerful drum sound here right off the bat. I love that. I want to say there's a little bit of a noise gate on the kick drum. And what that does is it basically, you know, it shuts down the signal at a certain point so that you don't have like a lot of bleed over or anything like that. So there's not like really even a lot of reverb on the drums, especially on the kick, you can hear it. But the drums definitely feel very much alive and huge and present. So I'll be curious to see how strong they remain as the other instruments, you know, are added to the song. It's a nice, intricate little riff, as short as it is. Really nice, too. Again, it goes to notes that you wouldn't necessarily expect. They kind of, you know, they're really good at doing that, saying, you know, here's what you would normally do, and then let's change this note and that note to make it a little more interesting. I don't know if that's how they sit down and strategize or if that's just what comes out. But either way, that's the end result, and I love that. I also really like the balance of organ to guitar here, and the bass is not playing really low. It's kind of back in that adventurous territory where it blends in with the guitar a lot more than stands out as an individual instrument. And they're playing very, very well together with the backing of Lee. It sounds really good and powerful. I really love the sound of this band. There's been so many times I thought, man, if we could go back with the master tapes and remix some of these older albums, like I talked about a couple episodes in the John Lawton era, man, if we could really go back and give those albums some modern mixing techniques, I think they could be really powerful. But we have what we have, and there's a certain nostalgia with that too. The original version of Demons and Wizards I had was on a cassette that was somewhat worn, so it had you know, a certain feel to it, a certain mood to that particular tape. And then, you know, when you get the album, because at some point then I went and bought the vinyl as I was collecting those back in the day, And it didn't hold quite that same feeling because the sound was cleaner. It didn't have that additional cassette hiss to it. So it took an adjustment to get used to that. And every once in a while, when I hear a song in my mind, I still hear it with that original cassette hiss. Just like if you got to know an album on 8-track and then you get the album or the cassette or the CD and you're like, wow, you're expecting the track to shift where it did on the 8-track, even though it's not going to do that on any other format right in the middle of a song. And it takes a while to get that out of your mind. So I think it would be interesting. But again, it's like, this is what we have. This is what we're presented with. And so we have that to enjoy. Yeah, and Uriah Heep is no stranger to writing about the horrors of war, as we've heard in several of their songs. And this has just got such a great and powerful feel to it. I love the openness, the fact that we're not having a constant guitar and keyboard sound. We've got a little bit of breath in there for Bernie to cut through a little bit more. He sounds fantastic on this song as he does. I've never heard a track where I was like, Bernie kind of sucked on that. Like, never once. His voice is always strong. He's very consistent. Unlike me, who on every podcast I sound different because it just depends on how much I've spoken in the last day or so. I think my voice has actually gotten stronger over this season because I don't actually speak much. I really don't. I don't talk on the phone a lot. I don't talk to people verbally a whole lot. So there's not a lot of work that my vocal cords get. Bernie's, he's very consistent, very solid, and he's got such a great foundation of a voice as it is that it's just really enjoyable. Even speaking to him, like his speaking voice is very, very pleasant. And then when he puts a little bit of power behind it to sing, it's even, tenfold amazing, to be sure. And he sounds very powerful in this song, of course. And that's important with something like this because really I kind of picture a soldier in the trench writing a letter to his folks because he doesn't know if he's going to be alive at the end of the night or tomorrow or the next day or even 5 minutes from now. And he's just got something he needs to say and he needs to get it off of his chest. I haven't read through the lyrics to know whether that's right, but that's the gist of what I felt from this song, especially the first time we listened to it. And I'm getting that immediate visual again, but it's very powerful. The music is fantastic. I really like that openness in the music. It really makes a huge difference whether you're trying to cover every little second in sound or whether you want a song that's a little bit breathable and has just, the guitar's starting, let's pay attention to that. Vocals have a space, let's pay attention to that. The drums have a few seconds to themselves. It just really kind of moves your attention to everything at some point. I thought there was a variation on the bass line. There are some fill-ins, but I'm pretty sure that's actually a keyboard. I don't think that's the bass. It doesn't really have that bass sound to it. I can't really tell too much what Trevor's playing unless he's just following Mick, which is very possible. Normally, we might hear something a little more adventurous, but they're really sticking to the roots on this one and allowing the vocals and the story to really cut through without distractions. They're doing just a great job of backing everything. Love that strong Hammond sound. That's so signature for bands like Uriah Heep. Really good, really good.
This war is wrong, so I write these words before I give my life to the song. In all my life, I never said I want to love you. In all this time, I never really knew you. The fires of hell surround me. Oh, the guns of hell will take my breath away from my life this day.
I really like that pad sound in the background that started in with this chorus. it's just got a nice, smooth, even tone to it, and it adds a really nice layer to what we're hearing here. Loving the vocals, as always, those layered vocals that Bernie does, because I'm sure there's layers of Bernie and then some other people, combination of other people in the background to that, because I'm hearing in the layers of it, I'm hearing another gritty voice that I've only started to hear once Bernie joined the band. But either way, it sounds fantastic, very powerful, definitely emotional. You really feel that bit of desperation, and I'm not in a good place right now, which is so vital for a song of this type. I mean, apart from the vocals, musically, it's really not that different. It still leaves those same open spaces. The music doesn't really change and give you the feel that it's a chorus as much as the vocals themselves do with those extra layers of vocals. Other than that, if you didn't have those, it would just be another part or another verse. So I find that interesting because I would have expected musically that there would have been something drastically different there for the chorus. But it's okay that there wasn't. Certainly okay. And of course, that is Mick Box pushing his guitar to the limit. You almost feel like you're waiting for those strings to snap. He's just playing with such power on that. Great wah and distortion there. I could have used maybe a little bit less rhythm guitar behind that because the frequencies kind of cross a little bit here and there. But other than that, it sounded absolutely great. And, hearing that part a little more isolated, that da-da-da-da-da-da, I'm wondering if that is both bass and keyboard playing that. I'm not sure either way. I could see it being played on, bass and mid-range note on a keyboard at the same time, as well as that mid-range keyboard with an actual bass guitar. I'm not positive because I'm hearing kind of bass tones, but I'm not hearing the feel of it being a bass. But I can't really tell what Trevor's playing outside of that. So it's very possible that he is playing along with Phil on that. I'm honestly not sure upon this listen. I don't know if we addressed this in the first episode when I reviewed it with Dave or not, to be honest. I didn't go back and listen to any of these because I really wanted fresh, untainted opinion. And I don't know. But I would say, regardless of how it's coming about, the end result is fantastic. It sounds really good. That sounds cuts through. It gives us something a little interesting to listen to during that part instead of just a repeated version of what we had when it's not there. And, it's just another thing to add another bit of interest to the song, which, again, is Heap's just masters of that.
The Piper's song.
So Trevor sounds like he's getting a little more adventurous in this part now. I didn't hear that so much before, and that's not uncommon too, to do it as a build, because you don't want to just start off playing your top stuff. You want to build to it, right? And just have the song get progressively more interesting. The only other thing I would say is, I said I wish there was a little bit less rhythm guitar during the solo. I actually think that for the whole song, this guitar track is just a little too loud. I think in comparison to the rest of it, it does infringe on that vocal space just a little bit, and also drowns out some of the keyboards and in part the bass too. I said too, it would be interesting to see from the intro, as opposed to the song kicking in with the rest of the band, how strong the drums remained during that. And they definitely have diminished a little bit, but I think that's, again, because that guitar is just kind of overpowering the rest of the song just a little bit. I would probably turn it down, a little bit on the fader and have a slightly more balanced mix, or at least pan it a little bit more to let everything else cut through. But I would be more likely to lower the volume just a little bit. I like what he's playing. but mix-wise, it's a little bit loud.
In all my life, I never said how much I love you. In all this time, I never really knew you. The fires of hell surround me. The guns of hell will take my breath away from my life this day. The fires of hell surround me. The words I say must never disappear. Keep them locked inside your fires of hell surround me. The guns of hell will take my breath away from my life this day. The fires of
I like the extra line that Bernie's putting in there, and it feels like if it were any longer, he would have to rush it, but it's like just the perfect length to be able to get through it and be ready to start the next line without having to like hurry up or speed up any words or, use alternative shorter forms of the words. It's actually like strategically perfect.
surround me. The words I say must never disappear. Keep them locked inside your heart.
See, here's a perfect example of what I mean. Like the guitar is really drowning out the keyboards until the guitar stops and you hear, oh, wait a minute, there's a keyboard track under that. So that's what I mean about the balance. You should be able to hear or at least feel the keyboards a little bit while they're playing instead of the guitar overriding it and making it sound like the other instrument isn't even there. Now, that may have been a specific choice that they only wanted the keyboard to cut through in those certain spots, but just thicken the sound and not be specifically heard the rest of the times. And that's very possible, but I don't think so. That doesn't seem like something that Uriah Heep would typically do. It's such an abrupt ending, the way they cut off that delay, especially because when we heard it before, earlier, I think it was coming out of the chorus, it actually goes on a little bit, that delay. And here it's just like cut off. So it almost gives you that a bomb went off and I didn't get to finish my thought kind of feel, because we are talking about war and this kid's in the trenches and, writing that letter to his parents. So it does give you that feeling that he didn't make it. And I have to say, unless it was a complete accident in the studio, that would have had to have been intentional, because it's so obvious. It feels awkward. They definitely know how to fade out sounds, as we've heard over the many songs that they've done, whereas the majority of them do fade out. So for them to have this abrupt stop and then not at least leave that delay to fade out naturally definitely feels intentional to me. So in my mind, his life is over and that's it. Just as abrupt as would happen in war. That's just my take on it. I have nothing official that backs that up, but that's the feeling that I get from it for sure. So great song, though. Absolutely great song. Very powerful. I really like it. I would make just a couple adjustments to the mix, but apart from that, another fantastic song from Uriah Heep. And I'm really glad that was one that came up in the redive season, because I really like that. It's got a great feel to it. It's very simple, but the riff is kind of technical, but the song itself, like the structure of it, is very simple. But, some of the greatest songs are very simple and straightforward. So another hit in my book, as far as I'm concerned, for Uriah Heep. So tomorrow is Wednesday. We will see you guys Thursday for the final episode of this season. And then it's kind of up in the air, because right now I'm recording this in early December, so about a month before this will air. And I don't know what day I'll have the new album in my hand. We'll just have to see. But keep your eyes peeled, guys, because those episodes are coming very, very soon. They could be as early as the 27th, late in the day. Could be the following Monday. I don't know. We'll see. In the meantime, you guys have an excellent next couple days of your lives, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers! Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!